Testament. There was a man who was punished because he spilled his seed in vain. What was his name?
Onan.
Bravo, you get an A+ in my classroom over there. Onan in the Old Testament. A kiss for me, you get a kiss for me. On the cheek. I told you I'm old-fashioned and it's clear. But I have to tell you how interesting. Onan in the Old Testament was punished because he disobeyed. Onan did no, it must be. He was supposed to impregnate his father's wife, and because the father had died and left children, he disobeyed because he didn't want the wife to be pregnant, the sister-in-law, the widow, because if there would have been a son, the son would have said the Kaddish, the prayer of the dead after the father, so he disobeyed. I could stay here for a week on your radio program, talk about nothing else, only about all of those myths that have filtered down. One more about masturbation. It says
a few years ago, my career would have ended with that.
Mine too, so we would have ended
Just like that. I'd have been looking for work. But today, as they say in Italian, che saccio. Is that Italian? Yeah, that's it.
But on a serious note, there is a myth in this country, in the United States, that says if a woman or a man bring themselves to sexual satisfaction, hair will grow in the palm of their hands. You have a very disciplined audience. I said that at the Harvard Law School, and guess what? Plenty of those attorneys looked at their hands.
Thank you. She talked about Harvard Law School and the look of their hands. If you masturbate, hair will grow in the palm of your hand. Nobody hair was
Yes, it's true.
Are you telling me to look at my hand?
No. I told you.
Which one, the right or left?
I wanted to know how old-fashioned and a square I am. I would never ask that question. But now let me tell you something serious that fits into, you have my book here, All in a Lifetime, it's out in paperback. And the latest autobiography I think is called Musically Speaking, A Life Through Song. And in there I'm talking about my coming out of Nazi Germany. I got a kindertransport to Switzerland. The children's home became an orphanage. And I have to tell you, my walking around here, just now with Leslie, passing by the American flag, there's one house that has a lot of flags, and I asked, is there anything special? And she said they're always there. That gives me pause to be very thankful. Because if I had not been placed by a mother and a grandmother, my father was already taken to a labor camp, on a train in Frankfurt am Main, I wouldn't be sitting here, I would be dead. And if the Allied, and I see so many older people here, if the Allied, the Americans, the Australians, the Canadians, would not have entered World War II, I would not be alive, because Hitler would have taken Switzerland. And I have this tremendous sense that I have to make something out of my life in order to justify. How come 6 million were killed? I was an only child, I had no family left. I came to this country on a visit. After I had been to then, from Switzerland to Palestine, watch out, whoever is not going to ask me a good question or give a good answer like you, I was a sniper in the Haganah. I can put 5 bullets in that red circle. I can still throw hand grenades, but I don't do it. And I was badly wounded in Palestine in 1948 on my 20th birthday. A shrapnel went through both my legs. That's not why I'm short. I would have been short I then was fortunate. I studied at the Sorbonne in Paris. I was very poor but very happy, because we were all poor, so it didn't matter. We sometimes ate only 2 meals, and we always shared. And then I was on my way back to Israel to be a director of a kindergarten, and I thought, I have to visit these United States. I had an uncle in San Francisco who went with an immigration from Germany through Shanghai to San Francisco. And that's how he was saved. I needed to check if he was as short as me. I wanted to know, is there anybody else as short as me? And look what happened. You people made me be Dr. Ruth, and I have no complaints. And I talk about orgasms and erections.
Dr. Ruth, is society today
Psychological disorder. Somebody who is obsessed would come to my office. I still do therapy 5 hours a week. And if they are obsessed with washing hands, for example, or with anything else, with obsessive
I don't know if I want to look at my hand ever again. I don't know.
If they are obsessed with something, I don't give them a second appointment with me because I'm not a psychiatrist. I give them 3 names of psychiatrists. So I don't want to say the word obsessed. I want to put it differently. We in this country, look how fortunate. You have a whole week of topics on aging, and God forbid, I would have criticized you if you didn't have many sections on sex. I'm not the only one. There are many other people who talk about sex. You have Gail, she'll be talking about, but I am very fortunate that in this country we have Kinsey, we had Masters of Johnson, I'll talk about that later, and Helen Singer-Kaplan, and we have the best knowledge. So we are not obsessed, but fortunately we are saying there's something that is given, you can say by God, by nature, whatever you believe in, that is free, and for people who do have a partner and with a relationship is a good one. Instead of going to my lecture today, go back to your cabins and try a new position. What you have Now, I said, those of you who have a partner, I know I'm a widow. I know very well that there are many widows, more widows than widowers, and I will say something later on about that. I don't have a solution for that. I'm not saying I'm old-fashioned and a square. Don't walk around and pick up somebody else's man. I would raise my eyebrows. What should I say next?
No. Okay, Dr. Ruth, okay, here I go. Are you ready? How many positions are there?
Endless, because the human mind is endless in its imagination. And now, somebody of a certain age, Jim, cannot hang from a chandelier anymore. There are certain positions you have to say, not for me now. However, it's endless.
From a chandelier?
Some people did that in their youth.
How does she know that?
Somebody nodded his head. Jim, don't forget that get me out of here in time. You watch the time.
I'm going to get you out of here in time. I'm just trying to
Your
think.
next question.
What is there a question after that? Really, Dr. Ruth? No, seriously, Dr. Ruth. What advice do you give young people? Real young
First of
people.
all,
I mean, you know, we're hearing more and more that the sex life of today's generation even goes down as low as 13 and 14 years of age. What advice do you have? How can parents...
Girls and the boys with tight jeans down to their pubic hair, because it is sexually arousing. And I want parents to be able to say, no, not in my house. Now, I'm not saying that there will not be some kids who will walk out like that by going to the mall and against the wishes, but I'm talking in generalities. I'm not saying at the beach. That's where it belongs. I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned about some of those quote studies who say rise in AIDS. In New York City, where I live, there are again sex clubs bringing up indiscriminate sexual activity, homosexual, heterosexual. I am very concerned about that. Because people, but a parent also, especially a parent who says no, even if it raises issues, even if the kid says no, I'm very concerned about young people engaged in any sex play. I'm not even saying dance. I'm saying in play before there are mature enough to have a relationship.
Dr. Ruth, we have a few commercials. Thank you very much, and welcome back from Buster Plaza. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday Mark Russell celebrated his 75th birthday. Let's all sing happy birthday to Mark Russell. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mark. Happy birthday to you.
When I was born, the president was Herbert Hoover. And doesn't it feel like he still is? You know, actually, my birthday was yesterday, and what I worried about, I thought, what if I wake up to that morning and everything falls off? You know, you just never know. But the good news is, I mean, I am 75, and which is the new 71, by the way. I am 75, but just in 15 more years, I get a free gate pass from Chautauqua. And a complimentary bowl of Jell-O from the Athenaeum. 75. That's when your loving family gathers around and hides your car keys.
Mark, this may surprise you, but I have with me.
Oh, yeah, that's my book. That's my book. And by the way, it isn't bad now. It sucked, as the young people say, for many, many years. It's now 35 cents. It's on that big, you know, every bookstore has that big table with books like Kate Smith's favorite recipes. But I never thought I'd live this long to follow Dr. Ruth, you know, and I love her. I love her. She's a great lady. She's a pioneer, and I've met her before. I call her Ruth. She calls me Shorty. My philosophy is that sex without love is a lonesome thing. But as lonesome things go, it's way up there. I love it. I'm going to listen to her lecture at 10:45. I'm going to be over there. And ever the sex therapist, right now as we speak, Dr. Ruth is over at the Athenaeum helping a gentleman get the cap off of his Viagra bottle. Did you see, by the way, it's amazing the way the institution schedules these theme weeks. They had a sex therapy week about 3 years ago. We called it Nostalgia Week here at Chautauqua. And in yesterday's New York Times, there's a front page article about how seniors are having rampant sex more than ever before. In fact, they're going to redo Sex in the City. This time around, it's going to star Wilfred Brimley and Betty White. And so the whole idea, because I've listened to these lectures, you know, and the whole idea, it's romance. As I say, yeah, sex without love is lonely, but it's with two partners, right? Notice I said partners because, you know, and so, but the whole idea...
Don't use the word, no, I'm not going to use
it. The whole idea is to create a romantic atmosphere. Soft lights, candlelight, romantic music, and this is the most important, selecting just the right Halloween mask.
Mark Russell, if I may, when this book came out, here's what they said. You know what Bob Hope said about Mark Russell? Here's what he said: the funniest man in Washington outside of Congress.
He was a great man, Bob Hope. He gave me one, I think I told you this, he gave me one joke one time. And it was when the Paris peace talks were going on and they were ending the Vietnam War, and Kissinger came back and he said, I see the light at the end of the tunnel and all that. And that was going on. And Hope said to me, he was in Washington, and he said, my writers wrote this for me. He said, I can't use it. It's just not my style, but you can use it. I said, what's the joke? He says, well, you know, Henry Kissinger just came back from the Paris peace talks. I said, yeah. He said, when was the last time you heard of a German ending a war?
Speaking of war, Mark Russell, President Bush just compared the Iraq War to Vietnam.
Yeah. You know, if I was Bush, I wouldn't go near Vietnam as a subject. You know, I mean, he shouldn't go there. Why? Because he didn't go there. And if they gave out medals for student deferments, Cheney would be highly decorated with 5 of them. But the thing is that he said he was going to the VFW, and I know you remember because you were wounded at Tijuana, and so he said if we pull out of Iraq now, the results will be just as disastrous as Vietnam, right? We're talking about tourism, Starbucks, and McDonald's, right? We can't have that. So anyway, so Senator Warner, John Warner said, well, we ought to start pulling back. Now he can't point at Warner and say that's just another one of those Washington politicians, because Warner's kind of a patriarch, you know, and he's a kind of, it's like when Barry Goldwater went to Nixon and said you got to resign. It's kind of the same thing. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles that.
Well, Bush also just made remarks regarding the leadership in Iraq, and he particularly pointed out that the leader that's in place right now, the prime minister, has got to do something. His name is Maliki.
Maliki, well, he's kind of cooling off of Maliki. He's curbing his enthusiasm, mainly because Maliki is getting very high approval ratings in Iran, of all places. And so Maliki said, well, we need a new constitution. I mean, why not give them ours? We haven't used it in years.
Come on, Jim. Come on. Wake up, wake up.
You don't want me to use that?
No, I'm not
sure. Okay. But I have to tell you, Mark, seriously.
Yeah.
I have to, just personally, I have to tell you, I was reading the chapter devoted to banquets.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The audience is not aware, but I mean...
Well, I go to too many banquets.
You go to, yeah,
I go for the money.
And I have...
but not the food.
Yeah.
In fact, what I would do, I don't know, there's always an invocation by a clergy person. And so they get up there, and some of them kind of drawn out a little long. We've all been to these things. And they will tailor their invocation to whatever the group, you know. Heavenly Father, we ask you to look down with your mercy on the National Association of Wicker Furniture Manufacturers. And so what I'm doing, the way I rate these guys is, and I'm standing there. By now the salads are on the table. The salads have been served, and it's a wedge, a lettuce wedge, you know. So I watch the Thousand Island salad dressing drip down the side of the lettuce wedge, and if the clergyman is still going on with his prayer after the Thousand Island stuff, then he's been on too long. I go to too many of those.
Mark Russell, how could I possibly not bring into play the recent resignation of Karl Rove?
What? His hero.
Well, Rove was always known as the president's brain. So with Rove gone, the president goes back to being his old self again. And they always, whenever these people leave, and it's Karl R. Rove, by the way, the R stands for Rasputin. Whenever they go, it's always for the same reason, to spend more time with his attorneys. And so with Rove gone, that leaves poor Dick Cheney all alone to do the heavy lying.
because
We're gonna
you
get
always
the Democrats in a minute, folks. So have faith, have faith.
You always worry about whether I'm going to pause for commercials or not.
I worry because it's your livelihood. You know, if we all worry, if we go a little too long, and I say, oh my goodness, they don't have any commercial coming
Yeah,
up.
we got commercials coming up.
And poor Jim's gonna have to go door to door.
Yeah.
Okay,
We
let her roll.
We pause for these commercials. We'll be back with Mark Russell in just about.
Yeah.
Could you tap her on the shoulder?